Happy to meet you all. Congratulations when they introduced the Delenta platform, and it has been incredibly helpful. I did start trying to build a website, trying to do it on my own. It was like a WordPress site. They were charging me like 200 plus, and WordPress is one of those softwares that needs extra plugins that cost even more money on top of the base platform. So it got to a point where I was like, okay, enough. I need something exactly as Carl mentioned that was all inclusive, that had the CRM in it, that was able to incorporate my calendar, integrate my newsletter, because there's a MailChimp integration. There's so many integrations that essentially were all of these plugins that I was trying to add on WordPress. So I'll go ahead and dive in and show you what I've done with my Delenta and how it's really helped me get started after finishing Jay Shetty's program. So share screen. Hopefully it is showing. Okay, it looks like it's up and going. So my Delenta page actually did not take that long to get up and running. A lot of the pictures, however, I had already built using Canva. So if you haven't used Canva before, to me, it's a lot more user intuitive than other kind of graphic design. It's definitely not working with paint, but it's a lot more fun if you need something to jumpstart creating your brand or posts for social media, if that's what you're using. But a lot of what I did here was all in Canva, and I used only the free version of Canva. So you do not need a paid subscription to Canva to create a lot of these images. Some of these were already, the image is already there, and all you had to do was just add text to it in the format that you want. But my Delenta page maybe only took like an hour or two to build. That's excluding time to create the images. A lot of this is all editable. So noting the stuff up top, if you've seen the recording that I made earlier, even deciding what kind of text I want. Instead of discovery call, I called it a free consultation. Kind of the things that I put in my Delenta page in addition to images from Instagram. So a lot of what I keep up here are my testimonials, just for reference. I also have kind of the ad of what I'm charging at the moment for my one-on-one coaching, as well as forest bathing sessions. So on top of a cartographer, I am a forest ecologist. So if you're familiar with forest bathing sessions, it was something that really spoke to me, and it's something that I still do today. Other things that I put on here are videos. So this was a video I made of explaining what it is I offer and what I do, and an example of a forest bathing session. But other things I put in here, of course, are just about myself, a link to do my subscription, my availability calendar, which I'll show you how I did that, and of course, my areas of expertise. One of the cool things that I loved about this was showing how to put my certifications up here. So in addition to Jay Shetty's program, I do also carry certificates for embodiment coaching. I've got a life and career coaching through the Academy of Creative Coaching on here, a 40-hour and a 60-hour certificate. And I'm also going through forest bathing, so I'm going to put that on here as well. Right now, I only have 2 options that I offer. I try to keep it simple because I am just starting out. I try not to put too much on my plate right out of the gate, for lack of better words. So all I'm primarily offering at this time are just 2 packages. At least that's how it's coded in Delenta. So I have a one-on-one coaching and a forest bathing group coaching. It's like a group coach. So it really didn't take too long to get this up and going. The color schemes, and I'll show you how I did those as well. I found my color schemes primarily through Canva. So one of the things you'll notice if you're working with Canva is that when you look at the color palettes that are associated with it, it gives you all of the codes for each of the colors that are in the images that you're working with. But that's just kind of what my page looks like on what I call the front end. So the back end, as I mentioned earlier, you can click on a lot of these pencils to kind of edit the text. So for example, I mentioned request free consultation. If I wanted to say request free call instead of discovery call, it's just as easy as clicking those pencils right next to it. But for this purpose, I'm going to leave it as free consultation. And hit enter. And then again, playing around with the images from Canva, you should have the option to create a banner. That was kind of how I was able to fit it within these dimensions, was I just simply looked at banner in Canva, and this is what that came out as. I can still add any kind of images to it. I don't know if there's a limit, so that might be a question for Danya or Carl. And I can also use or set different images as my primary. So let's say I wanted to set the ad as my primary. It's now going to show up at the top. But the key things I want to show to you today, in addition to all the text, is setting up the calendar. I know this was a huge question for our group, especially since it's kind of unique. It's a little bit different from using things like Calendly or Google Meet. But what I essentially did to set my availability were two things. I believe there was another option to set my availability. I think it was like through calendar. And I apologize, it might take a minute. Okay. So one of the first things that I did was integrate my Google Calendar. And I'll get into how I did the integrations later. But the first thing I did, in addition to syncing my calendar, was decide, okay, do I want to work all week or just the weekdays? Because my forest bathing sessions are on both weekends and weekdays, I just said 7 days. And then from there, set my availability, the first core availability. So these are hours that I'm available regardless of what day it is. And so I'm available usually between the hours of 7 a.m. and 9 a.m. For now, I just set my available days as Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I did specify that users cannot schedule with me within 2 days, which helps because it gives me a little bit of prep time to prepare for the client. Because this is mostly for my free consultation, I said the slots are only for 30-minute meetings. I set the repetition never ending for now. And this is where I started synchronizing my calendar. So right now it's synced to my Google Calendar. This is where I have everything personal, everything work related. And by syncing, I won't click on the button here, syncing my calendar, you can see there's some personal appointments that are kind of faded in the faded background, but it's also accounting for all of the times that I'm not going to be available. I can also specify the time between calls that I can maybe take a break in between. So for now, I set about 30 minutes. I don't quite have auto accept for everything, but I do have auto accept for discovery calls or free consultations. So that just takes away the guesswork of whether or not a lead is going to come through or not. And then I have the option to set reminders. And so that's how I set up my core availability. So another thing that I noticed though is I want to be able to add times in the afternoon, because right now it's just showing my availability for the morning. And so how I did that was I just picked one day out of the week. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, create availability. And I selected it, let's just say for the 13th. So this is where I would set my afternoon hours. And because I don't want to have to go through each week and put my afternoon availability, I'm just going to say it's going to repeat weekly. So I set this for my Tuesday. So every Tuesday is now going to have this 3 p.m. to 5:15 availability. And again, it's only for the discovery call. So I set 30 minutes each and I click submit. I won't do that here because I've already done that. So because that availability was only for Tuesday, I now do it that same procedure again for Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And so now I've got afternoon availability for the rest of the year. So getting a little bit more into integrations. Let me see. I have to pull it up. I have two monitors. So right now I've got a few things synced up. So starting with Zoom. So I do have a personal Zoom account. I actually created that through when I started with Jay Shetty's program. So I have a personal account and all I did, let's see if it'll let me do it again. All I had to do was flip that switch. Hopefully my Zoom page is showing now. So all I had to do is flip the switch, sign in, and then it will take you through a series of steps to fully integrate your Zoom account. And so what I mean by integrate, when you schedule an appointment with your client or they schedule an appointment with you, very similar to Calendly, it will automatically attach a Zoom invitation to your schedule or your meeting with your client. I do have a Microsoft Teams account, but because it's through my agency and I have clients through there, it's a separate account. I did not link that one. I do also have, of course, a Google Meet account, so I did sync that as well. I do have a business PayPal. So one of the things I had to do when I knew I wanted to start earning money outside of the agency that I work for was create my LLC. This is mostly for the United States. So wherever you are, it's going to vary. But I set up a PayPal account that was separate after I had filed for my LLC in the United States. I do have a MailChimp account, and that is to help with my customer relationship management, just to see, okay, if I put a link in my newsletter, how much money or how many leads are coming from MailChimp. And of course, I have my Google Calendar and Gmeet linked. I think I covered most of the things that I didn't normally, or I don't think I covered in depth on the video, but to just kind of refresh and go back to how I started getting my first client. I do have a social media account. I know that was a question that our cohort had when we went through the Business Launchpad, was whether or not you just had to use social media to get clients. And the answer is no. So where I actually have the most success for getting clients, and it's going to vary depending on what avenue is most preferable to you. But what was most helpful for me was to send monthly newsletters. I literally went down all of my email points of contact and added them into MailChimp into a newsletter. And that was my starting base. I maybe started with about 20 to 50 people and just started sending them out newsletters. I also got the word out through Instagram and social media. I got more people subscribing to my monthly newsletter. So this is also where I include links for Delenta. So as I mentioned, I have a forest bathing session coming up. So this right here on my newsletter, this is actually from my March newsletter. I included a link to sign up here for my forest bathing session. So if I click on it, it's just going to take me directly to the forest bathing group coaching link that I set up in Delenta. And there's quite a few cool features here that really make it easy for folks to sign up and hear more. But this is also an opportunity if you are an ambassador. So I also included those links that for Jay's program here as well. So all that to say, there's multiple ways to get clients, but how I ended up getting my first client was through newsletters and using my own initial contact base. And this could include folks that you've practiced coaching with on through the coaching program. It could be your family, your friends, anybody. And it's amazing just to see how it grows over time. So I think that is it from me. I believe they put my Delenta page in the chat for more information.